There are passages in Scripture that puzzle me. Recently, I heard someone refer to Paul's sermon in the Acts of the Apostles, in which Paul says that David was a man after God's own heart. That has always bothered me, because when I think of David, I think of the story of he and Bathsheba and the death of Uriah. You may recall that David committed adultery with Bathsheba, and in order to cover up his crime, he had her husband Uriah killed. I wondered how such a man could be said to be of God's own heart, because that's out of character from my understanding of God. And then a few weeks ago, a young college student pointed me in a new direction. She said that what made David a man of God's own heart was his passion for God. David was like you and I. He was a fallen man. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, the Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans. But David also knew throughout his life that God was God and he was not. He knew that it was by the grace of God that he was called to be king of Israel. He knew that it was by the grace of God that he had been saved from the paw of the lion and the tooth of the bear. He knew that it was by the grace of God that he slew the giant Goliath. He knew that much of his life was lived simply by the grace of God. And though he may stumble and he may fall, he always picked himself up because he had a passionate heart for God. He wanted to glorify God every day of his life. Perhaps that's why he wrote the 150 or so Psalms, one of which is a psalm of confession and contrition over his adultery with Bathsheba and the arranged murder of her husband. There's good news in this story. We hopefully have not committed murder. We have avoided many of the sins of the culture. But the good news is that if our heart is set right, we too may be called a person after God's own heart. In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus once said that we cannot serve two masters, for we will either love the one and hate the other, or hate the one and love the other. And when Joshua was about to lead the Israelites from their wilderness years, or wandering years, into the land flowing with milk and honey, that promised land, he challenged them to decide whom they shall serve. Choose this day, Joshua boomed, who you will serve, the gods of your ancestors who cared for you in the wilderness years, or the gods of the land that you are about to inhabit. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. I'm Frosty Crummell, the minister at First Federated Church. I encourage you to choose this day and every day whom you will serve.